This is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. Today we are flipping the spotlight to one of the most exciting voices in modern jazz. Get ready to dive deep with Melissa Aldana, the Chilean-born saxophone who is not just keeping the tenor tradition alive, she's completely reimagining it. She's got the tone, she's got the chops, and she's got the story. From transcribing Sonny Rollins solos in her teens to winning the Thelonious International Jazz Competition, Melissa Aldana's rise has been nothing short of legendary. Today we are taking a spin through some of her most absolute must-hear tracks, like the meditative Intuition from her 2012 album 12 Stars, the bold Latin jazz fusion of La Madrina, and the trio fire of Obstacles of Backhome. But we are not stopping at the hits. We'll also unpack her journey from Santiago to the global stage, break down the artistry behind the sound, and explore the records that put her on the map. And that was a quick insight into what's coming up during this program. Also coming up, some trending festival and album news. Stay tuned to the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva to find out more. We'll be right back after some music. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Melissa Aldana, her biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about her biography. Every so often in jazz, an artist comes along who doesn't just play the instrument, they inhabit it. The tone becomes an extension of their voice, their story, their questions. That's the case with Melissa Aldana, a tenor saxophonist whose playing feels both deeply studied and deeply personal. Melissa was born in Santiago, Chile in 1988. She grew up in a musical household. Her father, Marcus Aldana, was a saxophonist as well, and from an early age, Melissa was absorbing sounds that children wouldn't encounter until much later in life. By the time she was 6, she was learning the saxophone. By her teens, she was transcribing solos by Charlie Parker, Sonny Rollins, and Don Byas, not just copying them but internalizing the language. There's something remarkable about that period in her life. Imagine being a young girl in Santiago, spending hours with headphones on, breaking down b-hop lines note by note, often without formal sheet music. That's not just passion, it's a kind of calling. Her early exposure to jazz's greats gave her an edge, but it was also clear she had her own perspective. Eventually, her talent and drive brought her to the United States, where she enrolled at the Berklee College of Music. There, she studied under jazz luminaries, people like George Garzone and Joe Lovano, both players known for their adventurous approach to improvisation. It's not hard to hear their influence in Melissa's playing, but she's always managed to filter those lessons through her own voice. In 2013, she made history, winning the Thelonious International Jazz Competition. She was the first woman to win in the saxophone category and the first South American musician to do so. It was a moment that changed the arc of her career, but didn't change her focus. She stayed grounded, kept writing, kept exploring. Over the past decade, Melissa Aldana has developed a sound that is instantly recognizable. It's warm, dark, full of space and reflection. There's a quiet confidence in her tone, one that doesn't shout but instead invites you in. She's not trying to impress you with how fast she can play. She's showing you what it feels like to sit with a thought, to ask a question musically and let it linger in the air. Her compositions often deal with personal themes, identity, growth, memory, and you hear those ideas not just in her melodies but in the structure of her songs. She leaves room for ambiguity, for silence. In recent years, she's joined the legendary Blue Note Records and has been a part of a growing collective of contemporary artists who are redefining what modern jazz can sound like. Artists who are just as comfortable drawing from painting, poetry, and philosophy as they are from standards and swing rhythms. And that was some insight into the biography of Melissa Aldana, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. Here's Melissa Aldana with Echoes of the Inner Prophet. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Melissa Aldana, her biography and best hits. Now it's time for some trending music news. Coming in hot for jazz heads and piano lovers everywhere, it's a long-lost gem that's finally back in the light. Pianist and composer Armenian Donelian is celebrating his legendary roots with a stunning reissue of his 1981 debut album Stargazer, out October 3rd on Sunnyside Records. Originally recorded when Donelian was just 29, Stargazer was a hard-to-find import for decades, but now it's back, remastered and ready for fresh ears, featuring a great rhythm section with Eddie Gomez on bass and Billy Hartz on drums. The trio brings magic to tracks like the dreamy Southern Belle, the grooving Monday, and the wild free play on Free at Last. This is a debut, but it plays like a masterclass. And there's a bonus. The reissue includes a never-before-heard track, Queen of Light. It's soulful, bluesy, and full of that late-night energy jazz fans live for. This reissue isn't just nostalgia, it's a revelation. Stargazer proves Armenian Donelian had that sound from the start, complex, emotional, and deeply original. And that was some trendy music news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some of Melissa Aldana's best albums of all time. Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Melissa Aldana, her biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about some of her best albums of all time. Here's a quick recap of what's coming up. As we begin our journey to Melissa Aldana's discography, it's helpful to think of her albums not as individual projects, but as chapters in an unfolding story, one marked by searching, risk-taking, and personal transformation. Each recording captures a special moment in her evolution, where she was artistically, emotionally, even philosophically. These aren't records designed to show off chops or technical flair, though there's plenty of both, but rather albums that invite us to listen more closely, to sit with complexity, to follow the line of thought from one phrase to the next. In this segment, we're going to be talking about three milestone albums, 12 Stars, Visions, and Backhome. Together, they offer a striking contrast, from the layered introspection of her most recent work to the cultural richness of her concept-driven albums. Each one reveals a different side of Melissa Aldana, and taken together, they show the remarkable depth of her voice. So that was some insight into what's coming up during this hour, and you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. We're going for a short break, we'll be right back after that. You're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Melissa Aldana, her biography and best hits. During this hour, we're going to be talking about some of her best albums of all time. We begin our journey through Melissa Aldana's discography with the 2022 release 12 Stars, her debut on Blue Note and arguably her most personal project to date. This album feels like a turning point. It's quiet but deliberate, sophisticated without ever being showy. The title refers to a symbol found in tarot, a reference that signals the album's thematic concerns: reflection, transformation, inner strength. From the first track, you can sense that this is music born from self-examination. There's a gentle pacing here. Aldana allows space to exist, for silence to matter. Her tenor saxophone isn't just used to fill up every inch of the sonic field. Instead, it ebbs and flows like a voice in conversation, thoughtful, patient, never rushed. The composition intuition is a standout. It moves forward on a slow burn with phrases that unravel like thoughts on a quiet walk. The interaction between saxophone and guitar, especially in dialogues with Lage Lund, who appears on the record, brings a layered texture that's intimate yet expansive. What stands out across the entire album is the emotional honesty. There's vulnerability in this music, not just as a gimmick but as a strength. It invites you into an inner world that's full of questions, tension, and release. Stepping back just a few years to 2019, we find another remarkable project, Visions. Inspired in part by the life and art of Frida Kahlo, this album is a rich exploration of identity, personal, cultural, and artistic. Aldana doesn't try to imitate Kahlo's story, but rather uses it as a lens to explore her own experience, being a woman, being Chilean, being an improviser navigating tradition and innovation. The compositions on Visions are vibrant and layered. Tracks like La Madrina pulse with rhythm and color. You can feel the influence of Latin American folk traditions blending seamlessly with melodic harmonic ideas. It's a cinematic album. Each piece feels like a scene in a larger film, moody, textured, and full of visual suggestion. You can almost see the brushstrokes, the colors shifting with every modulation. What makes Visions powerful is how seamlessly it moves between intellect and emotion. It's deeply composed, but it never loses that sense of spontaneity, the kind that only comes from a player who truly listens moment to moment. And finally, we go back to 2016 and Aldana's trio album Backhome, a classic saxophone bass drums trio. On Backhome, Aldana plays tribute to tenor trio tradition. Think Sonny Rollins, Joe Henderson, but she makes it unmistakably her own. There's grit here, but also grace. Her phrasing is agile, almost angular, but never without purpose. What you hear on this album is her confidence not just as a saxophonist, but as a band leader, someone who knows how to create space for conversation, for tension, for release. The track Obstacles captures this beautifully. It's full of rhythmic push and pull of lines that twist and resolve unexpectedly. Back Home is an album that reminds us that less can be more. It's raw, exposed, and fearless, and it offers a perfect contrast to the more layered soundscapes of her later work. This is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Melissa Aldana, her biography, and best hits. Now it's time for some trending music news. Big news today from the world of contemporary jazz, and this one's global. Legendary Hammond organist and composer Vel Lewis is hitting the road again, announcing a brand new world tour, and he's teaming up with Switzerland-based Miller Art Agency to make it happen. That's right, the same Vel Lewis who once toured the world with Dionne Warwick is now bringing his signature sound, rich, soulful, and smooth as silk, to brand new audiences across Europe, Latin America, Asia, and beyond. Vel's career goes way back, from early gospel sessions in Philly to co-producing 90s jazz hits, landing music in shows like Friends and the Fresh Prince, and releasing smooth jazz toppers like Forevermore and Colors of Soul. And let's not forget, he was just honored as Best Male Jazz Performer at the 2024 Houston Black Music Awards. Keep your eyes on vellewismusic.com and Vel Lewis on Instagram for dates, and be ready to catch this living legend live in a city near you. And that was some trending music news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan Silva. We're going for a short break. We'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about more of Melissa